Welcome to Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use.
Welcome to Just Minding My Business. I hope you had an amazing day. Coming to the mic today is Angela Denise Wharton, who is a powerful public speaker, revered for her personal testimonies of rape survival, sexual assault, and the catastrophic failures of the justice system. With over 60 keynotes and panelist contributions, Angela's speeches annihilate the factors that accommodate rape culture in America. Angela is the visionary founder and CEO of Phoenix Ministries, Inc., a Christian-based nonprofit organization that provides the tools and support required for survivors of sexual assault. Angela also has over 5 publications, including her bestseller, Life After the Silence, From Pain to Power to Purpose, a reflective in which Angela shares her gripping tale of how she transitioned from victim to victor. Well, welcome, Angela. We are so honored to have you on the show today. And we are looking forward to our audience really being able to engage with you and learn from you. So,
Thank you.
Tell us your story.
Okay, so I will start from when I was 14 years old. My mom was a single mom, and she raised my brother and myself. We are about 9 years apart, and my mom worked. Job after job after job. She made sacrifices so that me and my little brother could have the things that we needed. Not always what we wanted, but always what we needed. And so this particular night, my mom was working the 3 to 11 shift, and the person that she was dating, the man that she was dating at the time, called the house and wanted to speak to me. And because the first thing I thought was that my mom's not here. Why are you calling here? And it's like after 9 o'clock at night. Why are you calling? But he said that he wanted to talk to me, and he wanted to come over and talk to me, not just talk to me over the phone, which I thought was a little bit weird. And one of my best friends was there with me. She had just got finished dyeing my hair with Kool-Aid. So I don't know if you ladies remember that from back in the day. Dye your hair with Kool-Aid. But my good girlfriend, she had just got finished dyeing my hair with Kool-Aid, and I told her, I said, please don't leave me. Something doesn't feel right about this. So can you just please stay? And she was like, nah, girl, I gotta go. Cause I got in trouble last week for staying out past my curfew. And I was like, okay, all right, you can go. So she left. And then moments later, he arrives at the house. And then he comes in and he wanted to sit in the living room. Now, when I was growing up, the living room was the showpiece of the house. You don't sit in the living room.
Right.
You buy, the living room is always dark. You bypass the living room and you go into the dining room, the kitchen, or whatever, but you do not sit in the living room. So I said, no, let's just come into the dining room. He said, no, we can sit right here. So he proceeds to talk to me about how I can make up to $500 a night by talking to men over the phone about sex. And so I'm 14 years old, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So he goes on to say, well, if you do it, then, you can help your mom with bills, and, you can get your hair done. And back then I really wanted a new pair of Jordache jeans. I never had Jordache jeans. I know I'm aging myself. I know. But I wanted the Jordache jeans. And so I thought to myself, ooh, $500 a night. I could help my mom get the gas and electric turned back on, or get the phone turned back on. Like I could help out with the bills, but I could also buy them Jordache jeans. So, I kept telling him, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. He kept pursuing me, pushing me, and just throwing the money in my face. And so finally I said, okay, if all I have to do is talk, then okay. And so then he says, good. So now all I need is a sample of you to take back to my manager to make sure that you're a good fit for the position. And I said, sample, what do you mean by that? He was like, well, we could just go downstairs in the basement to your room. Because at the time I slept down there. He said, we could just go down and, and we can sleep together really quickly. And we'll be done and I'll be out and we can move on. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so again, he kept pushing and, throwing the money in my face and everything. And then very reluctantly, I said, okay. So we get downstairs to the room and this man instantly takes his clothes off, gets in the bed and opens the sheets and invite me to come in. And I'm standing on the side of the bed, just shivering. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And so he keeps pushing. And so I get in with all my clothes on. This man rolls over on top of me, rips my pants down, and proceeds to enter me. I'm fighting. I'm screaming. I'm yelling. I'm fighting. Get off of me. Get off of me. If he don't get off of me, I'm going to scream rape. He jumps up. He looks at me and he says, how you going to scream rape when you opened the door and let me in here? You let me come down into your room. Like, he turned everything around on me when he was the predator in search of me. And so at that point, my doorbell rang and he's like, who is that? I'm like, I don't know. So I jumped up, threw my pants on as best I could and ran upstairs to open the door. And it was another friend of mine who was coming over. So by the time I got upstairs to let my friend in, this man was leaving right out the door. And my friend is like, who is that? I was like, he just somebody my mom knows. And my friend says to me, like, what's wrong with you? Something doesn't look right. And I never said anything. And the very next morning, walking to school, I told my good girlfriend who had just dyed my hair with the cherry Kool-Aid what happened. And I said to her, listen, I knew something wasn't right. That's why I wanted you to stay with me. But I understood she didn't want to get in trouble again. So she was the only person that I gave that information, that I told that story to back in 1986. So then we fast forward to 1996, 10 years later, to when I was 24 years old. I had just moved out to my own apartment in Northeast Baltimore, was doing my little thing, had my job and everything, going to college. I was doing well. So again, came home that night. It was a Friday night. Came home from getting my hair done. As y'all can tell, I like to get my hair done. Came home from my other good girlfriend, who was a kitchen beautician. Okay. And I walked up the pathway to go into the apartment building, because it was a building where you had to open the door and then go inside of the building to the apartment. And so as I put my hand on the door to open it, there was a man standing there to the left of me, pulling a mask over his head, and he had a gun in his hand. And he says to me, you know what this is. Give me your purse. Now turn around and walk that way. Now, I had just gotten saved September 18, 1996. This happened November 22nd, 1996. So the enemy was on me. The enemy was mad that I had given my life to Christ. So then he launched a major attack on me. But y'all know what? It didn't work. It did not work. And so this person, so I handed him my purse, just as he said, and I started to recite the 23rd Psalm, because that was a scripture that I had memorized. And I knew in that moment that this was a life or death situation and that I needed God to step in on my behalf. And so as he was marching me around to the back of the apartment building in a wooded area, I just kept praying. It just kept calling on the Lord, because I knew that he was the only one that could save me in that moment. And then we get to a space in the woods where he felt was a good space for us to stop. And then he turns around and stands in front of me and puts the gun to my head. So at that point, I'm thinking that he's just going to blow my head off and that's going to be it. I'm going to die right here in the woods. My family will never see me again. Like my whole life flashed before my eyes. And so I started begging for my life. Like, sir, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I go to school. I got a good job. I go to church. If you kill me, it's going to kill my mom. Now, I feel like I'm about to die, but I'm thinking about my mother in this moment and how this would break her heart to lose her only daughter. And so he looks at me and he says, shut up. And so I shut up. You know why? Because I wanted to live. My brain, it instantly went into the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And for survival, my brain said, okay, you need to freeze in this moment in order to live. And so I didn't fight. I did everything he told me to do. So what followed next was he made me get down on my knees with the gun to my head. So then I started saying, oh, God, he's just going to blow my head off. Execution style and leave me for dead in the woods. This can't happen right now. And so that's not what happened in that moment, but he made me perform on him with the gun to my head. And then he demanded that I take my clothes off. Now, I did say that this was November, right? So November is pretty cold outside. And so I did what he told me to do because I wanted to live. And so I took my left leg out of my shoe, my pantyhose, and my underwear, my pants. And he proceeded to violate me in the worst way. And then I just remember God coming to see about me. I had a God moment. Now, for the clinicians that may be listening, or, you all may deem this dissociation, where if the body is experiencing so much trauma that the brain can't process it in a timely fashion, like it's like the brain is on overload, it separates. In order to survive, the brain and the body, it kind of separates from what's taking place. But for me, a woman of God, that was God coming down to see about me, because I literally had an aerial view of what was happening to my body. It was like God had come down and taken my spirit out of my body and taken me up with him, because I could see everything that was happening, just like I was just up sitting at the right hand of God. And so this person continued to do what he felt that he needed to do. And then when it was over, he stood up over top of me and said, if you scream, if you go to the police, if you tell anybody, I know where you live and I know what kind of car you drive. I will find you and I will kill you. And then he ran off. And then it was like God had popped my spirit back into my body, because I remember jumping up like, you're still alive. You're still alive. Run, get to safety, run now. And so I put one leg back into my pants and one leg back into my shoe. And I ran back down the pathway that we came up. to get back down to the street. And I remember that when I handed him my purse, I quietly put my keys in my coat pocket so that he wouldn't hear them and try to take them from me. And so there was a car coming down the street. I ran out in the street to flag the car down for help. The car just swerved around me and kept going. So I jumped in the car and drove non-stop. I don't remember seeing a stop sign, a red light, no other cars, no other people, nothing. I drove non-stop, screaming and yelling and crying, trying to get to my friend's house. So I made it to my friend's house safely. And then my friend took me to my mom's house. And then my mom took me to Johns Hopkins Hospital. But at the time, Mercy was the only hospital that does the SAFE exam, the sexual assault forensic exam, or the rape kit. Mm-hmm. Mercy was the only hospital who does it. So Johns Hopkins calls police to come to Johns Hopkins to pick me up and escort me to Mercy. But what did he tell me? I better not go to the police, right? I better not scream. And so when I saw the police come in, I completely lost it because I thought, like he said, he was going to come back and kill me. So they were able to calm me down, get me into the police car and escort me to Mercy, where I had to wait for the on-call safe nurse to get to Mercy to do the safe exam with a rape kit, which literally took hours to do because when you have a safe exam done, your body is a literal crime scene where they have to comb every inch of your body for every piece of evidence, DNA, and anything they can find for evidence, to bring this person to justice or even to attempt to find him, to bring him to justice. And so from there, I just, it's just a long road to recovery. It's just a long road to recovery. There were night terrors. There was psychological issues, paranoia, anxiety, depression, anger, suicidal ideations, you name it. I went through it all. But I kept the faith. And I asked God, why? First of all, why did this happen? I was bold enough to ask God because, we were taught, question God. But I was bold enough to ask, why this? And now that I'm still alive, what do you want me to do with it? Because I knew there was something. And then one night in prayer, God revealed the entire vision of Phoenix Ministries to me. And as you stated, we are a Christian-based nonprofit that provides a pathway to women survivors, a pathway for women survivors to heal. And for 15 years, I ran from the call of my life to start Phoenix. And then in 2011, I started it after watching Steve Harvey and Tyrese on TBN. That particular night, it was June 10th of 2011. Steve Harvey had a TV show there on TBN, and he invited Tyrese to come on to talk about his new book, Getting Out of Your Own Way and Doing What God has Called You to Do. And I was convicted for the last time because I always knew I had to start Phoenix, but I was afraid. I didn't want anybody to know my dirty little secret. You know what I mean? I didn't want people to know that I have been raped, and I'm not a minister, I'm not a therapist, a doctor, counselor. How could I, little lady from East Baltimore, how could I run a ministry? How could I lead a ministry? So I ran from the call for about 15 years, but finally I gave the Lord my yes. I gave God my yes, started Phoenix in 2011, kicked off the ministry at the Empowerment Temple, AME Church in Baltimore, Maryland, where our pastor is Pastor G.J. Barnes. Kicked that off in 2012, and we've been at Empowerment Temple since then. serving women survivors of sexual violence. So that's my story.
Thank you,
Part
Angela.
of it, anyway.
Wow, that is a powerful story. And thank you for sharing so honestly and so fully with us and our listening audience. I know that there are women who are sitting back and going, "Oh, been there, done that." I've never told anybody. I've been too scared to tell anybody. And oh my God, my family, my friends think of me if I ever open my mouth. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity to share, because I do my best to try and be that face of hope.
Yes.
For women, not just for women, but for all survivors out there who are still existing in silence. You know, they're not necessarily living because they haven't broken their silence, and there's so much life that can happen after you are freed from the bondage of silence. So I try my best to be that face of hope, to help them to understand that you don't have to stay in a place of darkness and despair. You can move to a place of light and love, you know, and I can show you how God healed me. I can show you what steps I took. I can help you along the way, because you can get there. Healing may seem impossible, but it's not. I'm a witness. I'm a living witness.
Yes. And I know that was a hard road.
Oh, yes.
To recovery.
Oh, yes. It was. And I tell people all the time, you know, you see me now, but you don't know what it took to get here. You don't know what it took for me to get to this place. And that's how I know that it's not impossible, but you have to do the work. You have to face it in order to fix it. Oftentimes we want to just suppress it and act like it didn't happen. You know, I'm just going to go on with my life. But when we do that, it always rears its ugly head in some area of our lives.
Absolutely.
You know, whether it turns into, like I said, the anger, depression, unhealthy relationships, self-medication in the form of drugs or alcohol abuse, you know, whether it turns into promiscuity, whatever, you know, it can turn into so many different things. Illnesses, diseases, cancer, high blood pressure, you know what I mean? Diabetes, that can cause, like, holding this in, and that trauma just resting in our bodies like that and not being released turns into everything that I just mentioned and more.
Indeed. And many people don't recognize that.
They don't.
No, they don't recognize that we're an entity. We're self-contained entity. Whatever our emotions are, our experiences are, our feelings, all those things are part of us. And you can't separate them and say, oh, well, you know, it happened, but it happened, but I'm going to go on with my life. No, you're not. You're going to carry that with you in every cell of your body, somewhere deep in your memory. It's there, and it's constantly in motion. It never lets go of you. It's just with you, and you can't let go of it. But what we do is we suppress it. Use the word suppress it. And so we look fine. We have good jobs. We're walking and talking. We're not sitting, you know, babbling to ourselves on the side of the road. So everybody says, oh, she's fine. Oh, she got over it, if they know about it. But inside, there's something else that's continuously going on. And eventually, it has to show up somewhere. It has to. And a lot of times it does. In illness and bad relationships, the relationships that sometimes are chosen, And people don't always get it early. They sometimes don't get it until they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s. All of a sudden, things start coming up, and it's like, what's this all about? And then when they realize what it's about, it's devastating because a lifetime has gone by. You were 14 years old, and that experience in itself set you up for other things. It actually sets up children. That's why it's so important. The children have a voice. Somewhere, somehow, that they have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, Angela, you have just opened up. I'm going to just put this out here because I'm just thinking about you, and I know you have done many, many programs and keynote speakers, and Ida and I are always talking about doing a workshop, a day-long workshop, and I would like you to be one of our keynote speakers.
Absolutely.
I would be honored.
Yes, this is a message that needs to get out there.
Yes.
Because so many people are suffering and they don't know the way out. They figure that there is no way out. So they live their life in a box. They live their life hiding. And because they're living their life hiding, they're actually missing life. This life that we've been given, they spend their life running away and finding some place to hide. So, oh my goodness, what a powerful, honest expression. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And that's why I wrote the book. And the book's title is Life After the Silence. From pain to power to purpose.
Yes.
And those were the steps that God took me through to turn that pain into purpose.
Okay.
When you don't deal with this, when you don't face this head on, you're just existing. You're not living.
Absolutely.
You're just walking around day in, day out, just here. No sense of purpose, or hiding, as you stated, not really living life to the fullest. And like you said, when you get older, you don't really realize that experience, or if it's like a lengthy abuse, like as a childhood sexual abuse that goes on for some time, you don't realize that it affects you, like your choices, the choices that you make. You don't realize that it kind of spearheads or directs the choices that you make in your life down through the years.
Yes.
Because you've never taken care of that. You've never healed from that. And it just stays with you for the rest of your life.
It's like the song that's underneath everything. If you could turn up the volume and just hear it, you would hear the words. But it's like that's underneath everything. It's the murder that's there. And you can feel it. And it's very painful from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Turn down the volume some more. But it's always there. It's like it's the undercurrent, that under voice of your life. And so many people they're just going through life. And oh my goodness, it's just I know that when people hear this particular podcast, there are going to be people who are they're going to jump up. They're going to jump out of their seats. And they're going to say, oh my goodness, she just gave voice to what I've been feeling all my life. And I've never been able to admit. So it's just an awesome thing. It's rare that we hear people talk about such a powerful, painful, destructive experience so honest.
Yeah.
Angela, in your ministry,
yes.
How do people connect with you? Because this is going to be important, because now you have opened up a can of worms. You really have. And people are going to be wanting to reach out to you so that they can begin to live. And your story is, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anybody out there that is ready to move to their next level and get rid of the pain need to contact you like ASAP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your story is phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah. And there's more, but before I get into the second part that I just learned about last year, I'll let the listening audience know that they can contact me via my website, which is Angela D, like Denise, Wharton.com. I'm on all social media under Angela D. Wharton. And I'm also under all social media under Phoenix Ministries, which is P like Paul, HY, N like Nancy, YX Ministries. So I'm everywhere.
Okay.
I'm everywhere. And as I stated before I gave out that information, there's another part to my story that I just was informed of in January of 2018. So in 1996 was when the rape at gunpoint happened. And I would periodically call down to the Baltimore City Police Department to get any information that I can find about my case. Did you make an arrest? Do you need me to come down to identify somebody? Like, what do you have? Like, I need an update. And so I would get the runaround. They would take messages and tell me that someone would call me back. Nobody would ever call me back. A few years would go by, and then I would start trying again. Same thing, same cycle. No one would ever get back to me. And so I think it was around December of 2017, yes, I reached out to a colleague and said, hey, can you do me a favor? I really need your help. If I give you my information about my rape case from 1996, would you mind just reaching out to some of your colleagues to see what information that you can find for me? And she was like, well, yeah, I'll try. Sure. Send me all the pertinent information and I'll see what I can find. And so a few weeks went by and then I get an email from her that came from her colleague at the Baltimore City Police Department that basically said that we're sorry, but all of the victims' rape evidence has been destroyed, including her untested rape kit. We are sorry that this happened, and I'm more than happy to speak with the victim if she so pleases.
God.
I was devastated in that moment because I was so hopeful that there was going to be some good news, any news other than that.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was reading it, the pain in my stomach was unbearable. It was as if someone just kicked me in the stomach, like with a steel toe work boot or something, like that pain, like it was a punch right in the gut. And I just couldn't pull myself together. And I was at work when I read the email. And so I couldn't just leave work. So I had to put my face on, Ruth. had to put my face on.
I know how that is.
And get out there. Yeah, I had to pull it together and get out there. All the while, I'm just broken into so many pieces. Like it was like I was shattered. You know how like you shatter a window?
Absolutely.
Or a piece of glass, and then after the shatter, it starts to break apart in a million little pieces. That was what I felt. That was exactly what I felt. I felt the shatter reading the email, and then the days to follow, I felt the brokenness into all of the million little pieces of me. And I started to spiral into a deep depression because I couldn't understand. Like I couldn't understand, first of all, who gave them the right to destroy my evidence? Who gave them the right to make a decision that I will never have my day in court? They made that decision for me. They took my rights away from me for a fair trial.
Mm-hmm.
So that really rocked my entire world, because that was me on that shelf in the evidence control unit. That was my blood, my DNA, my pants, my shoes, my pantyhose, my stockings. Remember I said I took my left leg out of everything?
Right.
All the clothes I had on that night, they took from me as evidence. I had to wear my little brother's clothes home from the hospital. But they destroyed all of that.
Mm.
That was a real person. That was me on that shelf. And so I just kept feeling like, okay, I'm going the wrong way. I had already healed from being raped. So now I'm re-victimized.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that space now, where a space that I never thought I'd ever be in again.
Yeah.
And now what do? I give resources, information, empowerment, advice, encouragement to survivors every day. So what do I do for me? What do I do for me? And so every day I would come home from work, I would put my pajamas on and I would turn on Family Feud on the game show network. Family Feud came on from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night. And Steve Harvey was my therapy for weeks. I didn't interact with my family, my husband, my children, nothing. I stopped communicating with survivors because I didn't want to bleed on them. Hearing this news was like they pulled the scab off of the wound of rape, and it started bleeding again. And I couldn't stop the bleeding, so I didn't want to bleed on them. And so I had to step back. And so in finding myself falling into this like spiraling into this dark place, I said, okay, God, I got to stop this. I have to do something. I need to do something, God. You got to help me with this. And then I got connected to a first lady who was also a therapist, but she wasn't taking patients at the time. And so she connected me to another Christian therapist who was amazing. And I'm still with her today. So I've been with her for over a year. But she's really helped me. She has helped me turn my life around tremendously. Because without her help and without God, I wouldn't be in this place of healing right now. And I tell people all the time, I tell survivors all the time, God plus therapy equals healing. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. You're not crazy. You have been sexually assaulted. You're not crazy. And so I know for a fact that therapy and God has helped me to get to this place, because had I not gone to therapy, ladies, we would not be doing this interview right now, because I had stopped speaking out. I had no voice. I had lost my voice in that moment. And so with therapy, I was able to regain my voice and get back out here and start sharing my story in an effort to empower others to break their silence and begin their healing process. And I questioned God again. I said, God, why this and why now? Why didn't I learn this information 10 years ago? Why didn't I learn this information even 5 years ago? Why now? So then I got connected to the Attorney General's office here in Maryland, Mr. Frosh, who had the sexual assault evidence kit policy and commission committee, who were working on this very issue of rape kit destruction, because we have approximately 6,000 rape kits in Maryland that have not been tested.
Oh my goodness.
That's
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's ungodly.
It's ungodly.
Yeah.
And so he decided, okay, we have to get this under control. So he put a committee together, and I was able to get connected to the committee, and they invited me to come up and share my story so that they can put a face to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of bigwigs, a lot of decision makers in the state of Maryland in that room. And so after I shared my story, there was not a dry eye in the room.
Mm.
And they all said, we get it now. Putting a real person and a real story to this makes it that much more important to us to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the legislative session for 2019, I was invited to come down and share my testimony in support of the mandatory rape kit bill. There's a technical name for it, but I just like to call it the mandatory rape kit bill here in Maryland, and it actually passed. And Governor Hogan signed it into law on back in April. And I was there for the signing. So I said, okay, God, you needed my voice for this bill, because they had been trying for the past 3 years and have been unsuccessful. And so, once I came on this year and the rest of the panel, we had 2 different panels, the rest of the panel, and everybody lent their support and shared their stories, it moved the legislative Judiciary Committee to pass the bill and for the governor to sign it into law. So now rape kits taken in the state of Maryland, all over the state of Maryland, have to be tested within a timely fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that they would not be tested would be if the survivor decides that she doesn't or he doesn't want it tested. They have that right to say, no, I don't want it tested. Or if the police deem it not a rape or not a sexual assault. But outside of that, they can't just sit on the shelf for years untested. That can't happen anymore. So I just thank and praise God for the opportunity to be able to share my story and to lend my voice to legislation that will affect survivors to come in positive ways, so that this doesn't happen to another survivor. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want this to happen to another survivor. And so now it won't in Maryland.
Okay.
Praise God.
Yes,
You say
absolutely.
that God used your pain in a very powerful way.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Amen.
That people can have a hope of justice. Now, I do want to ask, how, before this bill was passed, how frequently were these rape kits destroyed?
Actually, unfortunately, I do not have the answer to that question. I had no idea they were even destroying rape kits until I found out about mine. Now, I did speak to that lieutenant who sent that email. I did have the opportunity to chat with him because I needed answers. I wanted answers. And so he shared with me that unfortunately he wasn't there in 1996. He came in 2010. And since he's been there, he has not, they have not destroyed rape kits.
Okay.
That's what he told me. But I personally know of a survivor who actually shared her testimony in Annapolis right after me, whose kit was destroyed in 2015. So that what he told me was not true. But
not good.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not good. No, not at all.
No.
And so he told me that, you know, they don't destroy him anymore and blah, and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what it sounded like to me.
Yada.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounded
Right.
like to me.
Okay.
Well,
Wow.
just, I mean, it's amazing how people, unless it happens to them, they
Mhm.
don't take it seriously.
Mhm.
Exactly. They don't take it seriously until it reaches their doorstep.
Right.
Mhm.
And so with the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement and, you know, these other movements that are happening these days, I'm very grateful that they have taken place because these movements are empowering other survivors to speak up and speak out. And it's also pushing others to listen to us and take us more seriously than ever before. And when I say us, I mean rape survivors, sexual assault survivors, you know, sexual violence survivors. It pushes them to lend an ear now, an objective ear. Now, there's still a lot of work that we still have to do, but I am thankful for what's taking place in this season right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a major accomplishment.
Yes, it is.
That is
Thank you so much. Yeah, it really, like, for me, that's my day in court.
Mhm.
Being able to, you know, stand before the Judiciary Committee and tell them that you all need to change the law so that this doesn't happen again, and here's why. Like, that was a chance for me to speak up and speak out so that everybody could hear my pain and could understand that this is why this change must happen this session.
Okay. So if people want to purchase your book, where can they get your book?
Oh, yes. They can pick up the book from Amazon.com. If they search out Angela D. Wharton, it'll come up along with the journal that I created to accompany the book.
Oh, excellent.
It's called the Life After Journal, Transformational Healing for Survivors of Sexual Abuse. And I created the journal because a lot of people were sharing with me that they were reading the book and stuff started coming up for them.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you mentioned, you know, they suppress it, try to act like it didn't happen, and years later, it comes up years later. So, you know, if they were reading the book, stuff was coming up and they didn't know what to do with it. And so I created the journal so that when these feelings, these thoughts, these flashbacks come up, they can journal it, they can write it out, because that's a way to release it from their bodies.
Yeah.
You know, to get those thoughts and feelings out of the body and on paper. Mm-hmm. And so there's journal prompts there. It's meant to start off to help you release feelings of, like, negative feelings. For the first 15 days, it helps you to release negative feelings and then transition into embracing positive feelings. And there are journal prompts in scripture for each day.
Oh, lovely. I really like that.
Yes. So they can get them both. They can get them both there on Amazon.com or from my website, which is AngelaDWharton.com. Okay. I have the books. I have T-shirts, a few different T-shirts that I created with empowering messages on them for survivors as well.
Wow. This has been an awesome conversation. And
Oh no, we gotta go.
It's true, because I'm thinking one of the things I would love to hear, maybe another conversation, we're going to have you back,
yes,
because about restoring that sense of safety.
yes,
And that's what I'm hearing you talking about in your book and in the journaling, restoring that sense of safety, because that's one of the things that's lost. You know, and how did you do that, and how do you maintain your sense of safety? And I know that's what a lot of people are hearing in this conversation. They say, like, okay, so how do I get back to being normal? If that's the right word, you know, because so many people have never had that sense of safety. Once something like this happens, that sense of safety is gone.
Yes, and it's just
absolutely.
Somebody breaks into your house, you no longer feel safe anymore.
Yes.
It takes a long time to recover from that.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
That's the word.
Have to have a part 2 to this and talk about the safety feelings, how to get that. And what I'm thinking that I want to do, like for the TV show, I would love to have you and some other survivors, and we do a round table.
Sure. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
I would love to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think this is important. I think people need to hear this often, especially those who are silent right now and not dealing with that pain.
Yes, absolutely. It's important, because otherwise they'll stay in that place.
Yes.
If there's no sense of hope, if there's no sense of hope, there's no sense of direction, you know, they don't see anything outside of where they are, then they stay in that same space.
Yes.
But we need to get them out of that space. As I mentioned before, get them out of that place of darkness and despair and into a place of light and love.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Phoenix Ministries.
I can't wait.
Yes. Roundtable talk conversations.
Yes, I just love these type of conversations. Hearing people overcome and push through.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it just gives me strength to deal with whatever I'm dealing with.
Praise
and
God.
A lot of times what it does also, sometimes we whining and complaining about what's going on in our lives, and then when you hear some things that has gone in others' lives, it just makes you feel like, why am I whining?
Right.
I have nothing to whine about.
Like my grandmother would always say, listen, your situation could be so much worse than it is. Because there's somebody else's situation that is worse than yours.
Absolutely.
So pull it together. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Angela, we could talk all night.
We could indeed.
I know.
So we're definitely going to have you come back, and that is definitely a go. And like I said, we're going to create some positive roundtables of people that have gone through similar, and create some synergy around this topic.
Sounds good. I would love to be a part of it. Looking forward to it
too.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Looking forward to meeting you in person.
Me too. Me too. And shout out to Teddy the Tax Man for bringing us together.
Yes. Thank you, Teddy. We love you.
Yes. We love you, Teddy.
Yes.
Thank you to the amazing women of a Sister Circle Empowerment Network, ASCEN LLC, and our media partners. Let Just Minding My Business Media promote your business. For information, visit us at jmmb.asistercircle.org. That's jmmbasistascircle.org. Voiceovers by RCH VoiceWorks, for when you want to be heard. Call 443-620-4115.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.